Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 5th meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you please rise and join us as Commissioner Jackal leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Turley, would you call the roll, please?
Here.
Commissioner Kramer? Here. Commissioner Bell?
Here.
Commissioner Garrettson?
Here.
Commissioner Jacko? Here. Chairman Rosler?
Here.
Commissioner Looney?
Here.
Student Commissioner Cranford?
Here.
And Student Commissioner Martinez is not here yet.
All right. Commissioners, the next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 17th meeting. Are there any changes or comments on the minutes, or can we hear a motion to approve if not? Commissioner Garrison.
I move that we approve the minutes of November 7th as written.
Commissioner Kramer?
I second the motion.
Very good. Okay, it's been moved and second to approve the minutes of the November 7th meeting as submitted. Please cast your vote. And the minutes are approved 6-1 to 0-1. Commissioner Carroll was absent at our last meeting, so he has to abstain. The next item on the agenda are agenda changes. Ms. Chow, any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is oral communication. This is a time on the agenda that we set aside for anyone to speak to items that are not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips, so and I'm not seeing anyone rising. We will move on to our first public hearing. Public hearings are in our process. Staff will make a presentation. The applicant will come and provide additional information, maybe a presentation, and then we will open it up to people who have filled out speaker slips. If you wish to address the commission on any item on the agenda, you do need to fill out a speaker slip and provide it to Ms. Turley, and we will call you in order. Given that, Mr. Winters, would you like to run us through Vista Townhomes?
Thank you, Chairman Rosler and Commissioners. First project here is a site development plan, condominium housing permit, and tentative subdivision map for 60 townhomes. The applicant is Tim Winslow, working with KB Homes, project number P170012. This first slide shows the project site, which is a vacant 4.58 acre site at the southwest corner of South Santa Fe Avenue and Mar Vista Drive. It's located adjacent to existing commercial uses along South Santa Fe Avenue, to the Sprinter Rail to the west, and then single-family residential farther to the west. To the north is Allen Brothers Mortuary. To the southwest is the Arco AMPM gas station and market. And there's several commercial strip centers located on either side of South Santa Fe Avenue. This slide shows the existing project conditions. The photos are a little bit dated, but basically it's a vacant site as shown. The first slide at the upper left shows Allen Brothers Mortuary looking towards the north. Looking to the northeast is the commercial center where the auto parts store is. Looking south from the front of the project site shows the Arco AMPM in the distance. And the view southwest, approximately from the middle of the site, shows the retaining wall, above which is the Sprinter Rail, and single-family residences beyond that. The general plan designation for the site is mixed use, which is consistent with the zoning of MU 21. The existing land use and zoning designation allows for multifamily residential development. At 21 units per acre, the site would accommodate 96 units, excluding any density bonuses or anything like that. Some background about the project site. On May 20th, 2014, the Planning Commission approved a proposal for 114 multifamily apartment units at a density of 25 dwelling units per acre, which included a 20% density bonus. That was by designating 5% of the homes as very low-income units. The project was subsequently appealed on August 26th of 2017. Let's see. That would be 2014 as well. There's a typo there. The City Council certified the final EIR approving the reduced project alternative to allow the development of 96 multifamily apartment units at a density of 21 dwelling units per acre. Since the project met the density allowable under the MU 21 zone at that time, the density bonus no longer needed to be applied. January 17, 2017, this year, a new project proposal underwent early design review with the Planning Commission for 72 two-story attached townhomes within 16 buildings at a density of 15.7 dwelling units per acre. On April 11th this year as well, the City Council approved amendments to the mixed-use zone standards, which included changes to the standards for parking, setbacks, and landscaping. Given that the latest proposal for the project site was submitted prior to those revisions, the Council grandfathered in the project under the MU zone standards that were in effect prior to the amendments. The current project consists of a request for approval of the site development plan, tentative map, and condo housing permit to develop 60 townhome units, which are attached condominiums, within 19 two-story buildings on the 4.5-acre site. Approval of the project would include approval of Addendum Number 1 to the Santa Fe Vista Apartments Final Environmental Impact Report. The project includes 19 buildings consisting of 2-plex, 3-plex, and 4-plex combinations. All units are 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, ranging from 1,654 square feet to 1,924 square feet. All units include an enclosed 2-car garage, approximately 400 square feet. Private patio areas range from 140 to 631 square feet, averaging at 350 square feet for each unit. Landscaping of the property would be 23% of the overall site. Landscaping would include drought-tolerant, low-water use native plants, and the 5 existing street trees along South Santa Fe Avenue would remain in place. The project includes 3 recreational amenities, which includes a central recreation area with a 975 square foot pool and 2 turf areas at either end of the project site, one at the southwest, one at the northeast, each with freestanding barbecue and picnic tables. Parking for the project required under the code is grandfathered in 135 parking spaces, which is 2 spaces per unit, for 120 plus a quarter guest space per unit, which is 15 more spaces for the total of 135. The applicant has provided 148 parking spaces, which is the 120 garage spaces, 22 guest spaces, includes 5 accessible spaces, and 6 loading spaces throughout the project site. Here's a site plan showing the primary access from South Santa Fe Avenue, which is approximately across the street from Cypress Drive. There's a circular looping internal driveway that goes throughout the project. The units face the driveway to the interior of the project site. All garages face the interior, so they're not visible from the public streets for the most part. The recreational areas that I mentioned, I'll go ahead and point out. There's one here, which is a grass area with barbecue and lawn and seating. The central pool recreation area right in the middle of the project site near the project entrance. and the other turf area at the southwest corner of the project area. The architectural elevations show a Spanish Mediterranean style with concrete tile roofing and facade features including decorative clay pipe, paneled vinyl windows with prefabricated shutters, stucco trim and pot shelves, and decorative light fixtures. There are, as I mentioned, two unit buildings, 3-unit buildings, and 4-unit buildings. The slide shows a 3-unit building. As an example, there's a few color variations. The applicant's presentation is going to show all of the elevations for the buildings as well as all of the floor plans. This is the example floor plan from the same building. It's hard to read on the slide the way it was blown up, but on your plans you'll be able to read that this is the ground floor. There's the 400 square foot garage at the bottom of the slide next to the entrance doorway, the hallway, which goes into the great room or the family room, and the kitchen. The stairway goes upstairs to a loft area, which then provides access to the 3 upstairs bedrooms and bathrooms. The project includes off-site improvements, part of which were a result of the environmental impact report previously done. There's median and turn lane improvements on South Santa Fe Avenue in front of the project site and across from Cypress Drive. There is the inland rail trail crossing is included here. That's going to be completed by Sandag. The city does not have drawings of that at this time, so we're waiting to see how that is exactly planned out, but it's in the vicinity shown there on the map. At Mar Vista and Avocado Avenue is a proposed or a planned roundabout that was a result of the traffic mitigation for the original project. This slide shows across the street from where the project entrance drive would be, basically at the end of Cypress Drive where it hits South Santa Fe Avenue. And just wait a second for the slides to catch up here, I think. In this area, there would be median improvements and the temporary measures there which prevent right turns onto Cypress Avenue would be improved with a permanent road divider, basically. And I have an example here that would show what that would look like. A little bit of technical difficulties here. Do you want to control it from there? Can you take it to the slide with the roadway improvements, please? I think it's the next slide. There. Let's see, I don't believe I have an image of it, but it's included in the project plans that were distributed to the commission, and I can answer any questions on the medians that there might be. The proposed roundabout at Avocado Drive and Mar Vista Drive is shown in this slide, a conceptual drawing. Its placement would be entirely within the public right-of-way areas. The City Council certified the final EIR for the Santa Fe Vista Apartments project on August 26, 2014 with the original project, including a statement of overriding considerations, a mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and a site development plan for the apartment project. Given that the proposed Sierra Townhomes project is reduced in size and scope compared to that studied in the final EIR, and the City has determined there are no substantial changes proposed in the project which will require major revisions of the previous environmental document, Addendum number 1 of the Santa Fe Vista Apartments has been prepared, and the project will be required to comply with applicable mitigation measures outlined within the project mitigation monitoring and reporting program and all conditions of approval. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving addendum number 1 of the Santa Fe Vista Apartments final environmental impact report for a 60-unit multifamily residential development and associated improvements at 1375 South Santa Fe Avenue, and adopt a resolution approving the site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit to develop 60 two-story attached townhomes and associated improvements on a 4.5-acre site located at 1375 South Santa Fe Avenue. That completes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions. The applicant's team is also here and available.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Garrison?
A question about the Santa Fe median. How wide is that median going to be?
I can take out the plan and scale it if we want to take a minute.
Well, I think that's an important part of this whole project, is how people are going to get in and how they're going to get out.
It looks to me that it's as wide as a travel lane, so it's at least 10 feet wide, 10, 12 feet wide.
Okay.
Commissioner
And-
Garrettson,
Yes.
if you look at the grading plans, the South Santa Fe typical section detail, the proposed improvement shows the medium at 12 feet.
12 feet. So that would be left turn out of there also, correct?
That's correct.
And how many cars could turn left into this space? How many cars could line up before it started to block Santa Fe? Because if I'm coming west on Santa Fe and I want to turn in here, you know, how many cars before it starts to block Santa Fe?
Probably 4 cars could be queued there without any blockage on Santa Fe.
And you think staff thinks that's sufficient to ensure that we're not blocking Santa Fe? Did the traffic study indicate that that would not be a problem, I assume?
It was designed that way by the project engineer, and I believe we do have the engineer present if they could probably address that question better than I can right now.
Okay. Second question is, will the roundabout be done before the project starts?
The current requirement would be for the roundabout to be completed prior to occupancy of the units.
Prior to occupancy, but not prior to beginning construction?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal?
Thank you. I'm remembering that when we had the first project, there was a lot of concern among the residents who lived on the other side of South Santa Fe about exactly that entrance to and from Cypress. Is what is being proposed now going to resolve those concerns?
What's been designed to resolve those concerns is there's been temporary measures taken to prevent traffic that's driving north on South Santa Fe Avenue from making a right turn into that street. That's going to be turned into a permanent measure with a raised median there, where currently was shown on the slide where the temporary K-rails are. And also there will be the left turn lane that was referenced by Commissioner Garrettson going into the project site so that cars aren't turning directly from the travel lane. And there's a median that will be placed from the exit of the project site slightly to the left, which does allow cars from the project to make a left turn, but they would not be able to go straight in a line into Cypress Drive And I believe those measures do alleviate the concerns that were raised for those
Okay.
residents.
Thank you.
Mr. Winters, as part of the Inland Trail project and the improvements they're going to make, wasn't there going to be a traffic signal placed on Mar Vista at Phillips?
That's correct. In the on the slide shown where the smaller circle is in the center, there's an approximate location of where a signal would be placed to accommodate the inland rail trail.
Okay, very good. All right. If there are no other questions for staff, we'll move on to the applicant. A couple more, sorry. Commissioner Carroll.
Thank you. I'm looking through the project conditions, and I'm assuming it's in here somewhere. I just haven't found it yet. It's regarding HOA and CCNRs. So, and I'm bringing that up in regards to the parking. Under the parking in the conditions, it talks about a parking management plan to be submitted and approved prior to occupancy, and it kind of has, it's got a sentence in there about ensure garage spaces are used for parking vehicles, and I'm looking for some of the HOA and CCNR requirements that might be a little more specific about that parking. So is that listed somewhere in the?
I don't know at this point how detailed the plan is, but KB Homes is here and they can address that question for the commission.
Okay, fair enough.
Commissioner Bell?
Thank you. Following up on the left-hand turn onto Santa Fe heading west, south, I guess. So there is actually going to be a median put in as opposed to the center empty left and right turn lane that exists now?
That's correct. If I can use the pointer here to show on the display, there will be a median in this area here.
Okay.
And the one in front of Cypress that prevents right turns from
Sure.
westbound traffic.
And this may be a question for the engineer when they eventually come up, but I understand the Cypress aspect, that's great. But if there's a median in the left-hand turn, well, if there's a median for cars turning left out of the project across traffic, it seems in that area that middle lane is often used as the buffer to turn left and make sure you have space before the cars heading your direction either catch up with you, go past you. I don't know what the proper traffic terminology is for what that lane's used for, but is the median there for a specific reason, or is it design? Because it seems like that middle lane is more useful as a buffer for cars turning left and having a space to start accelerating before they move into the actual lane. And I can wait for the answer.
There will be no left turns from that lane.
From the project?
From southbound traffic on South Santa Fe Avenue. There will be left turns possible from the project driveway.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So if I'm coming down Mar Vista and then I turn left onto Santa Fe, I can't turn left into this project.
Yeah, you can.
You can. There will be a left turn lane there.
Can we get something with a better map on it? I apologize. I'm probably confusing things here, but.
I apologize, Commissioner. There was a slide, but it was a few seconds too late to get into the presentation.
No problem.
Okay, sorry. The purpose of the median that's to the left side of the driveway was to keep drivers that are coming down Cypress that want to turn left onto Santa Fe from turning left onto Santa Fe because it's a right only there. So right now there's some sticks out there basically to keep people from doing that. The proposal was to address that issue, not so much the turning out of the project. It's an inevitable consequence that the project traffic won't have
the buffer
trap lane to get into.
There you go.
But that's the only way we can keep that traffic from Cypress from trying to go left out on the Santa Fe, which was the issue that was created from the cut through.
Okay. And if it is what it is, that's fine. I just was curious. Thank you.
Chairman Roessler?
Yes.
If I may, the question from Commissioner Carroll earlier about the parking management plan, there is actually a condition on page 134 of 177, condition 9. So it reflects previous conditions, how we've written them in the past. Just wanted to address that.
I'm sorry, say that again, Ms. Chow.
Your question earlier about the parking management plan, there's a condition on page 134 of 177. It's condition number 9 about
Yeah,
the
that's,
parking management plan.
I saw that one. I was referring to that as something I noticed, but what I was looking for, and we can get into it later, but it's something more specific than that might be showing up in the CCNRs and HOA documents. I know those documents don't exist yet, but I'm talking about language
To be included
that
in the
is more specific than
CCNRs?
what's listed in item number 9 here.
Yeah, the CCNRs will be reviewed later at the stages of construction, and that's something that land development gets involved in that part. But you can address that later on,
Okay.
I guess, to include more language perhaps.
Yeah, let's get to it later. Thanks.
Commissioner Looney.
Let me come back to this left turn lane in South Santa Fe. We've got a double yellow line that's basically demarcating that turn lane from the oncoming traffic. A few months ago, or a year or so ago, in front of Arco gas station, they replaced, I think, what do they call them, candlesticks, the plastic vertical barriers that were recently replaced with a concrete curb. Does the city foresee any issues with the same thing happening here in this left-hand turn lane that happened opposite the Arco gas station, where the candlesticks didn't keep people from making that left turn lane?
In that situation, the westbound traffic, and if I'm understanding the question exactly, they were forced to take the intersection of Mar Vista, make a left turn, and then make another left turn to get into the AM/PM. And so there was some incidences of traffic going through the sticks or pushing them, driving through that to enter the parking lot against oncoming traffic, I guess you would say, prior to the intersection. I don't think there would be, because this left turn lane into the project site is facilitating that turn without requiring cars to go farther and flip a U-turn and come back to the entrance. I don't think that would be an issue in this situation to where a curb would be required.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the applicant then, Adam Pevney.
Good evening, everybody. Members of the Planning Commission. My name is Adam Pevney. I'm the Director of Land Acquisition and Entitlements for KB Home. I reside in San Marcos and have lived in North County, San Diego for the past 20 years. My niece and nephew currently attend public schools in Vista right now. My niece actually attends Vista Magnet Middle School of Technology across the street from City Hall. And my wife's first job in high school was actually working with Sam Felicia over at Felicia's restaurant back in the late 80s. So I'm very connected to Vista on a personal and professional level. Members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this application for your consideration and approval. I'd also like to thank staff for the presentation this evening and for all of their hard work over the past year on this project. With us tonight are the following consultants who will be available to answer any specific questions on the project if you or anyone else needs more detail about the proposed project. Here we have the civil engineer, O'Day Consultants, planning consultant, Decatur Advisors, landscape architect, GMP Landscape Design. The architect is KB Architecture. We have the developer, colleague of mine from KB Home, and then we have the owner, Tim Winslow, here tonight as well. KB has invested the last 12 months working on this project and has revised the tentative map application from 72 townhomes down to 60 townhomes that now range in square footages from 1,624 to 1,924 square feet. These homes will be entry-level townhomes that help fill the void of affordable new housing in Vista and San Diego County. I'll begin the slideshow now, and I guess I need to get your clicker. Okay, so current condition of the property, we've kind of touched on this earlier with staff. Vacant lot at the northwest corner of South Santa Fe Road and Mar Vista Drive. What was previously approved going back, just so you could see some of the imagery, 114 three-story apartment project, May 20th of 2014 at a density of 25 per acre. This project was appealed May 22nd of 2014. The project was then revised and reapproved in August of 2014 for a 96-unit, three-story apartment project at a density of 21 per acre. This slide demonstrates the architectural elevations on the approved 96-unit apartment project with three-story massing and 41-foot roof heights. KB came in on January 17th to the Planning Commission earlier this year to preview with you our new site plan to eliminate three-story apartments, rentals, and go with two-story townhome for sale. So the site plan above on the screen here is including two tot lots, dog wash area, passive park areas with barbecues. All homes had private yards at the rear. The townhomes range from duplex, triplex, fourplex, fiveplex, sixplex, sevenplex, and nineplex. We had everything except an eightplex out there. And then early design review generated comments from Planning Commission and the general public. The early elevations of that product, the 4-pack, is shown above here. And then the initial floor plans for the 4-packs, and there are basically three plan types. The Plan 1, 1,574 square feet. Plan 2, 1,654 square feet. Plan 3, 1,759 square feet. We then come to you tonight with the proposed plan. And this revised site plan includes 60 townhomes. The project is now down from the originally approved 114 three-story apartments in May of 14 to 60 two-story townhomes, which is a reduction of 54 units or 47% reduction in units. Based on feedback from from the Planning Commission at early design review and from neighbors, we've reduced the unit count from 72 to 60 units, 17% reduction in homes. We've reduced the building massing. The original site plan of townhomes had duplexes ranging up to nineplexes. Currently, the new site plan has only duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, with the primary common denominators, the threeplex, makes up most of the site. Increased spacing between the buildings. We've had original site plan an average of 14 side yard setbacks between buildings along South Santa Fe, so it was denser initially up on this frontage here. The original site plan, it was also denser throughout. But we've increased those average side yard setbacks between buildings along South Santa Fe from 14 feet to 19 feet. We've also increased the building setbacks along South Santa Fe. The new site plan has scooted homes approximately 5 to 7 feet further from South Santa Fe. So originally the units were about 5 to 7 feet closer to South Santa Fe Drive. And now we have 25 and 26 foot setbacks from the rears of the homes to the face of curb on South Santa Fe. The old site plan had 17 and 18 foot setbacks from those rears of the homes to the face of curb on South Santa Fe. We've increased the articulation. The new site plan has an undulating wall design along South Santa Fe. It's a little hard to see on this exhibit here, but if you are looking at your staff report on pages 154 and 155, you'll be able to see how the walls themselves actually undulate. There's notches in the walls, so it's not a continuous plane. It moves in and out along the backs of those units. Again, that's page 1 154 and 155 of the staff report. I've got a graphic at the very end too if you don't have the report or are unable to find those docs. I'll wait for you to take a peek.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Yep.
Also, the architecture has been modified as well with the new Plan 2s and Plan 3s that have broken planes and create niches for living. So these edge units here have niches in them now, and the Plan 2s and the Plan 3s, they live off the backs and the sides of these units. So now you don't have one continuous flat plane, you have undulation in the architecture itself compared to the initial 72-unit project, which had one back wall plane for the entire product. The new architecture breaks up the flat plane of townhomes originally proposed on 72-unit site plan and increases the articulation at the rear elevations for a better streetscape, larger backyard living, and a better overall project. Enhanced amenities. This was a big one at the last meeting at early design review. The project now contains a pool at the center. That's the focal point of the project now. Pool, showers, and restrooms, and that replaced what we originally had as a tot lot. The project is also now gated to provide exclusivity and privacy for the residents. The project also contains 2 passive pocket parks with picnic tables and barbecues. Then last, we've doubled the landscape code requirements. The project now contains approximately 21,000 square feet of private open space for the rear and side yard living of these units, approximately 350 square feet per townhome, which more than doubles the 140 square foot open space requirement for townhomes in this zoning. I'll kind of brush through these because I think you may have seen them through the staff report. Actually, I don't know if you've seen this one. This is the street scene along South Santa Fe Drive. We've articulated the block walls with a combination of glass and block to break up the look of just solid block walls there. The next slide gives you a perspective from the rear as well along South Santa Fe Drive. It's a little difficult to see, but there's undulation and articulation on the wall. This is popped out further. It then sets back, comes out, pops out, sets back. It's easier to see on that plan view on page 154 and 155, and I'll go to that at the end if you'd like to see it. Again, the articulation, the movement, the broken planes of the architecture and the walls are something that we've taken time to modify on this project. I'll go through these quickly because I think you've seen most of them in the staff report. This is the typical duplex front elevation, 4-sided architecture of the duplex. Triplex, this is the common denominator. The plan 1 is in the middle. The 2 and the 3 are on the outer edge. 4-sided architecture for the triplex. And then the floor plan, this really shows how these live in that the plan 3 and the 4 on the edge. Plan 3 lives really well off here, sliding off your great room, backyard and side yard living. The plan 2 lives off the living room with a slider towards the backyard. And then the plan 1 has strictly a backyard. They don't have any side yard living. Exit from the great room through the slider. This is the fourplex front elevation, Spanish theme. We have 4-sided architecture on the fourplex as well that we're showing here. And then on the fourplex, it lives just like the triplex with the exception of the first floor includes an additional plan 1. So it's mirror image plan 1 instead of the triplex. And then you've got the plan 3 and the plan 2 on those edges. These are the proposed exterior color palette and materials for the project. If the project were approved, anticipated start for grading would be spring of 2018, with anticipated model opening in late summer of 2018. And then, last note, KB has spent the last year making significant revisions to this project with staff and Planning Commission's recommendations from the early design review. We're excited about the project and sincerely hope you are as well. We welcome you with any questions, and anyone in the audience for any questions. We're here for your responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pevney. Any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, I missed it. What is the front setback from Santa Fe to the edge of the property now?
From the face of the curb to the back of the buildings is approximately 25 and 26 feet, depending on where it is on that frontage, because there's some slight adjustments and pinching.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you. I'm looking for a little more information on these retaining walls, specifically along South Santa Fe. I see some of the sections are showing them as plantable, but other than that, I don't really have a good feel for what kind of finish we're talking about on these walls.
The elevations assume either a split-face block, kind of a tan color, or slump stone with a slurry coat is
Okay.
what we anticipate doing.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Okay.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, a question on the amenities.
Yes, sir.
I heard picnic table and I heard picnic tables. I heard barbecue and I heard barbecues. Could you clarify that?
Yes, there's two areas on the site that have both picnic, there's a picnic table over here and a barbecue.
A picnic table and a barbecue.
Correct.
Okay.
And then in this location, same thing, picnic
A
table
picnic table and
a barbecue.
and how many people can be in the pool at the same time?
Well, that is a good question.
And the reason I ask, if you have 60 units, there's 4 people per unit, that's 240, 120 kids. Half of those could be in the pool. You know, is it just
I'm going to pull my
show, or is
colleague
it
up
big
here.
enough to accommodate people actually using it?
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a request to bring up landscape architect John Patterson, and he may be able to shed a little light on that, or if he wants to bring someone up with him, that's fine too, on that pool.
Thank you. Yeah, typically on a pool, County Health looks at 15 square feet per person, so 975 square foot pool would be looking at 65 people as a kind of the expected occupancy.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Commissioner Bell?
Thank you. I've got a question for your architect or building designer. I'm looking at the layout, and specifically you've got a group of 5 buildings, buildings 1 through 5, that are kind of grouped around the center island. So building 1, building 2 are facing, the rear facing to building 4 and building 5. Was there consideration, or is there anything that you've considered to change the view? Because it looks like the buildings are almost mirroring each other, and looking at the drawings for the 3 plexes you included, the number of, what looks like there's 6 major windows on the back of the 3 plexes that are going to look almost straight identical into the 6 windows on the back of the other 3 plex. I don't have a solution. I'm just wondering if you guys dealt with it, talked it through. Is there any other option you looked at, and whether one of your team has ideas about that? I'd be curious to hear.
Yeah, I'll bring up the architecture team if they'd like to comment on that. And then just speaking from experience of myself living in condominium projects like this, back to back, it's basically window treatments, and that's kind of the mitigation. You've got blinds and things like that. You could do frosted glass. There's things like that, but that's how we address it.
And I know
when
there's
we
some
do
of that, but you've got master bedroom windows that are full windows here. And I'm not pushing back on you too hard. I'm just curious to hear what the architect and designer have to say about how they looked at ways to address that.
Sure.
Good evening. My name is Eric Coe. I live in Costa Mesa, California. And Sapita, our designer, is here with me as well. So regarding the back-to-back, it's actually quite a good point. I mean, this would be an easy solution where we could flip the building and get some dissimilarity between the two backs. And then as you get into conditions that are tighter, we do start looking at window locations and start adjusting them per building plane so that you don't have master bedrooms looking into master bedrooms across the way. The nice thing is on the first floor, you're going to have fencing, which will give you the privacy at that level. But, you know, trying to create something where you're not looking down into your neighbor's yard and watching what they're doing is really the key.
I think what we can also do the window study so that we, you know, we can really.
Hold the microphone down,
sorry.
please. Thank you.
We can't really, you know, changing the window to make it all different, but we can technically do the window study to see when the building back to back and the window kind of look into it. We're going to try to offset the windows so that we wouldn't have that direct view into it. Okay.
As long as you're considering that, I'm not overly concerned about it as a make or break issue. But and I'll say, for the rest of it, good job. Like you working with a small space here, so congratulations on moving things around to somewhat workable area here.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I'd like to echo that too. In my opinion, this is a considerably better project than, especially than the first one. This is and I appreciate all the work you've obviously gone to bring it to this point. So I'm very pleased about that, and thank you. I am, however, still concerned about where kids are going to play. They're not going to play at the picnic tables and the barbecues. So where are they going to play?
I'm going to bring the landscape architect up here again, but we can clarify that the picnic tables and benches and barbecues do not make up the majority of those passive pocket parks that we're calling. So the majority of them, the majority of the area is landscaped with grass. So there's pretty large square footages in these two regions. The landscape architect's probably got the specifics on that, but in here and in here, I'll let you go.
Well, I see that my client's trying to take my job, but no, Adam is correct. The area over here, it's actually encumbered by an easement, as is the area over here. So it actually afforded us an opportunity to do the majority of that space in turf. So as Adam said, it's got picnic table and a barbecue, but it's also got a majority of the area is turf, and that was intentional to provide the play areas for kids.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just for a little bit of extra information, those areas are, the smaller of the two areas is just over 3,000 square feet, doing a rough calculation. The larger area is over 5,000 square feet.
Commissioner Looney.
Thank you. I have a question for the architect and then a question for the landscape architect. For the architect, we've got a variation in finished floor levels. And on the roof plan that was presented, it's basically showing a design with a common plate height. With the adjustments of these pad elevations, do you foresee the roof plans or the roof designs really becoming more articulate because of the pad elevations, or are you going to change the plate heights to where they're all consistent for each building?
We're going to actually do it in two ways. First, on the smaller buildings, the duplex and probably the triplex, depending on what the steps are, we'd actually do it in the heel of the truss.
Okay.
We won't actually change the plate heights, but we can get some consistency in the heel of the truss to give us the planes that we currently show you. The larger fourplex building, where we're taking up a lot more grade, most likely in the bigger steps, we'll have an extra break in the middle of the building, so you'll get more articulation between two units, and probably two units will probably split right in the center.
Okay, with the additional heel height in that truss, will that increase the distance above the top of the window to the overhang? Or are these overhangs going to be softened to where we can keep that proportion about the same throughout the building?
Now, if we were to do a heel, you'll get an increase between the window head and the bottom of the fascia.
Okay, so on some of the larger buildings, Building 9, we've got 4 units. with a 2-foot difference, basically from one unit to the other. So
Building
technically,
9.
we could have a 2-foot difference from the top of your window to your soffit line.
No. If it's a fourplex building, we'll end up having to break the truss, and you'll get you'll have I think it's going 8, 8, 8, and 8. So you'll have a 16 inches on the lower, and you have 16 inches on the top. But when it's all said and done, the first house, or the one with the lowest finished floor level, will have your standard window to fascia height. The house next to it will have an 8-inch increase, and then we'll do a break in the truss, and then you'll be back to 8 or standard, and then you'll be 8 on the high side again.
Because I think that'll be real important, particularly on the units facing the street.
Absolutely. We try and keep that forehead to a minimum, so
Correct.
it's not.
Correct. Okay, thank you. And then the question for the landscape architect. At the west end of the property, and I'm speaking specifically on, it's going to go to your grading plan. Let's see. In this area right here, we've got a couple of retaining walls. And the lower retaining wall, the wall that's nearest the street or nearest the sidewalk, we've got a distance of about 30 inches of planter. But yet on our rendering, we show full-size trees in that general area. And so what species is going to grow 20 feet tall without popping that city sidewalk?
Well, that's an excellent question, but so as part of the guidelines, any of the trees within 10 feet of paved surfaces would have a root barrier on them. And you are correct, that's a tight area. Part of also to help offset those areas was, as Adam had mentioned earlier in the presentation, the articulation and the offset of the wall above that, kind of above that first retaining wall. That was done purposely, again, to allow some trees at that level as well. So to answer your question, at that grade level, we'll probably be looking at something more along the lines of like a Tristania type of a tree, something you see a little more commonly, in the area. We're through the HOA maintenance as well. They'll be needing to do long-term, root pruning, things like that. But there are some measures that will be in place to help mitigate, root intrusion.
So I think the presentation of the landscaping really does a great job in filtering the proposed project from the street. It gives us, creates some layers, which I think is very helpful.
Yeah. Well, and the other item you did mention, that setback of the retaining wall, again, that was something that was looked at through the team and with the modification of the architecture as well, which allowed also some ground plane planting to help screen that wall. So there will be ground cover and shrubs at that level, then you have the level above that. So it's really looking to do a good layering effect from Santa Fe and present itself as well as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Very good. 2 questions for you from me. On the plan 2 and 3, both have lofts at the top of the stairs on the second floor. One of them is fairly large and significant. Any plans to offer an option to the future home buyers to build an additional bedroom there?
Well, they're all 3-bedroom already. We haven't really contemplated turning that into a 4th bedroom at this point.
Okay.
It could serve as de facto 4th bedroom. Does the architect want to comment on the design? Okay.
You don't anticipate making that an option to your buyers?
At this time, we don't, no.
Okay, all right. And then tell me about the rear yards and the patios. Are you going to have standards for patio covers? Are you going to pave any portion of the patio for the homeowners? Is that up to them? When do they have to have their patios done? If they're going to be a patio cover, those units fronting on South Santa Fe, or are there going to be design controls on those? So just curious about that.
Sure. So this kind of dovetails to Commissioner Carroll's question earlier about parking enforcement. Myself and some of the other members of the KB team have been in this industry I've been in for 20 years, my colleague about 30 years. So we've served on multiple homeowners association boards as presidents, as vice presidents, as secretaries. And the whole key to the design guidelines is writing out quality design guidelines. Typically, you have about 6 to 12 months to do your backyard improvements, and we're not planning on landscaping the backyards because no matter what we do, someone's going to rip it out. They're not going to like it. So typically, it's a 6 to 12 month process or deadline to get your backyard done. Typically, if your improvement's below the fence line, it's almost administratively done, and you have a pre-approved list of improvements you can do to your backyard if you're doing flat work, if you're doing landscape, and you're not encroaching over the 5.5 foot, 6 foot wall. It's almost a slam dunk. If you are, however, going for some sort of architectural enhancement, trellis, pergola, rotunda, things of that nature, then you have to submit paperwork to the Architectural Review Board for the homeowners association. So we're going to be very careful about what's approved, what's not approved. We will be on the board with the majority vote, KB Home as well. And then initially, that'll be how it starts out. And then as more and more residents move in, we'll start phasing off the board, and they'll take the majority. But we're going to be making sure we're taking the best interests of the city and the neighborhood in hand by enforcing strict guidelines on architectural improvements and rear yard improvements. But to answer your question, 1,000 words or less, we're planning to just put a stoop in the backyard, and we're not doing any hardscape or softscape.
All right. But you will review what people propose to build back there?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And you will have guidelines and standards for them?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much, Mr. Pevney. We're going to open it up then to the public. Wendy Apishoa, did I pronounce that right?
Hi, my name is Wendy Saposhian, and I've lived on Cypress Drive for 34 years. I'm really encouraged by the way it looks tonight. I mean, I've been kind of a naysayer about anything going in there, and I'm really happy that they've put in a pool, that the design seems to be a lot more shadow ridgy, which I've hoped we would be able to have in our neighborhood there, because it is kind of a nicer little wooded area, so I'm really happy about that. I didn't hear prices of what these were going for, and I'm kind of curious about that, what the prices of these townhomes would be. Also, I do live on the other side of that Cypress Drive, and we did pay to have that covered like that, and I really appreciate that. There's a lot of problems with traffic, and I think that median's going to make a big difference, because even though there is a no left turn, it is a constant problem for people that are constantly turning left, and it creates a big traffic problem. So that median, if it goes up like that, looks like it might create and help what we've tried to accomplish by having people racing on our street. There is motorcycle racing at night on Cypress Drive, and they will probably jump that median and continue doing we've had to put rocks on the sides of the banks because motorcycles doing it. We can't seem to get the sheriffs out. So I really do like what they've tried to help us do, is to stop the cars that are racing on that street. I would like to see possibly a red curb along the front of that area. I know the mortuary uses it at times, but if you pull out of La Gordita, you can't see the traffic coming from your right, and I think that might be a problem if there's parking on the street there, that you won't have the visibility to be able to see. You'll be able to see the cars going really fast down from the south end, but not from the north end. So I think that might be something that I'd like to see done. I would also like to see possibly landscaping in the center median, if there could be a tree or two like they're doing on Vista Way and on Civic Center. Also, I'm a little concerned about the few apartments that are there, or the townhomes on the back side that are by the mortuary. That is the receiving area. It is a very busy mortuary. I know the mortician There's some exchanges that go along in the back, and I think that's something that perhaps with landscaping or something that should be done immediately, and I'm a little concerned with the little park in the back there. It might not be the best thing for kids playing around there because it is busy. I also appreciate that there is no solar. I'm usually kind of a stickler about wanting solar on these projects, but the houses up above on Phillips, I'm sure, would not like the glare that would happen, so I think it's a good roof line and that there isn't any solar. Also, I just want to make sure that the windows are thick enough that they're soundproofed for the trains going by, because it's every 15 minutes. So I want to make sure that it's very livable. Anyway, I thank you very much for your time.
Very good. Thank you. Christina Geno.
Okay, so I wrote something out. I'm not the best public speaker. My name's Christy. I've owned a home on Mar Vista since 2009, and what drew me and my family to Vista was we were house hunting and looking for larger parcels of land. I will start by saying that this plan is much better than what has been presented. I have a couple of issues that I was kind of writing down. The 15 extra guest spaces for 60 units of parking. As the last resident said, there are issues with parking on Santa Fe. You can't get out of the La Gordita or the Bear Roots and have any kind of visual for the oncoming cars. I kind of anticipate that you're going to end up having more parking. I don't know what people would do for holidays and gatherings if they only can park, in the 2 that are provided underneath their units and only have 15 to share with the other 60 units. So that kind of seems as though it might be something to consider, expanding the parking. I also am a little confused because it looks like on the map as though it's going to be difficult turning left onto South Santa Fe. As a Mar Vista resident, and you guys know, we've had some issues with traffic on Mar Vista. We've been functioning at an F currently and have been for years. The residents on that road have issues getting in and out of their homes. Putting this complex, as well as the 4 others that are in the surrounding area, those parcels, I ended up having them pass out a map so you guys can see. This is just one project of 5 that are going to go in down there, and all of those extra projects are also going to continue to use Mar Vista. Without having a stop sign at Mar Vista and Avocado, no one's going to stop, and it's going to be a consistent flow of traffic. I'm kind of curious as to how the engineers and the traffic experts have determined that how are the residents really going to benefit from a roundabout? It makes me nervous. I drive with my 2 little kids. I, already kind of have to hold my breath sometimes as we come out because people speed down that road. I just think it's something to consider. I don't really think a roundabout is the answer. It kind of, to me, belongs more on as you're going down Santa Fe, more not a residential area. Residential areas, people need to slow down. They shouldn't have to continue to go at the flow of traffic. Also, the only other point that I kind of want to make is that Santa Fe is an artery to the city. I almost feel like if we had an opportunity to put larger pieces of property on land that somebody can play in their backyard and you're not having to rely on a tiny little spot with a barbecue for your kids would be better fitted in that area, whereas a complex like this would look great closer to downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the speaker slips that I have. Anyone else want to address the commission? Come and address us, but make sure you fill out the speaker slip and give it to Ms. Tull. Come. Can't hear you. Have to be at the mic.
I didn't find out about this project until about a week ago, so I didn't know.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Loa Brown, and I live on Alta Vista Drive, just off of Cypress, near Monte Vista. And so we use Mar Vista to come and go into our home all of the time. So my concern is I'm still I'd like to get a better clarification on how the traffic flow goes, because I heard you mention that there would now be a traffic signal that would be put in at Phillips and Mar Vista, which is right next to where the train crossing is, which means people that are stopped there for that red light would be backing up toward the turn on Mar Vista that goes up to the freeway, and you said that you were going to put a traffic circle there. That's a very short piece of street that goes between those two places, so I'm not clear how that would work if traffic backed up from that red light and made it to the traffic circle. Does that mean you're going to have traffic backed up around that traffic circle all the way to the red light, and how would that affect the flow of traffic? Because as I've noticed recently myself, and I don't know if you're aware of this, because we've been in our house for about 4 years now, and when you put in the traffic circle in downtown Vista and change the stuff between Vista and Civic Center, one of the reasons the flow of traffic, I think, has improved through there is because a lot of the cars that used to go through there on South Santa Fe don't. They started getting off at Mar Vista instead. So there has been a great deal increase of traffic between the 78 freeway and coming down to South Santa Fe. During rush hour, there's a backup from that stop sign that goes all the way to the freeway, and everybody inches forward. So by adding 100 and some cars into this project that is right there near that corner, those people are going to be coming in and out, and that's going to add a lot of cars to that. So I'm not real clear how you see the flow of traffic through there, how that was planned to work, and whether you actually did any traffic studies since the changes were made downtown, or if that was done, some time ago. So can they address that a little more clearly for me?
I think that you've asked some very specific questions, and what I would suggest to you is to get a copy of the staff report, and in the addendum to the environmental impact report that was done for the previous project, they have updated the traffic study in there, and I think all of your questions will be answered in there. The traffic signal and the roundabout requirements are requirements of the project. Well, no, the traffic signal is a requirement of the trail system. The roundabout is a condition of approval for the project, and it mitigates their impacts. Okay?
So you said that they will be having like dual pane windows or something in the project?
It is a requirement of the noise study that was done as part of the project that they mitigate the noise impacts of the trolley and the train system.
Yeah, because the thing I'm not sure if you've taken into consideration, one of the other concerns we in this whole area have is before you got forward on this project, they're already going forward on a very large housing development project in Carlsbad near College and Marin Road that is hundreds and hundreds of homes, which is going to put people and traffic into our area. And so I would like to specify that I have a real concern about this one in an area that has very small streets and has been residential for a long time. And I'm concerned that it's going to block the access of people who already live there from being able to get in and out of our homes.
Understand.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Anyone else that wishes to address the commission? Have you filled out a speaker slip, please? Please come. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Gary Walker. My address is 1428 Steen Circle in Vista, 92083. I can walk to the property site within a minute from my front door. This same meeting went down several years ago, and it was in front of the city council instead of the commissioners. But the point being that traffic flow at the time was deemed on Mar Vista unmitigatable. That was the term they used. You cannot adjust Mar Vista. It's never going to be more than what it is. Currently, though, if you're a pedestrian, and seeing this out, there's a hotel up on the corner. There's the Motel 6. You have the AM PM down there. That is the traffic flow from the Motel 6 down to that point. So what that does is that puts a lot of pedestrians on the road on Mar Vista. So right now, if I'm going to work in the morning, I'm driving up Mar Vista, I have to use evasive maneuvers to avoid anybody walking on the side of the road, currently. If I'm not paying attention, there's nothing there. It's just like, boom, there's the road. This is just going to increase that situation. It's just going to magnify the problem, the issue, but back to that point, it's unmitigatable. A roundabout is not going to affect that particular situation. And currently, as I said, I work in Vista. My wife works in San Diego. She drives to Miramar Road every day. She called me today to say specifically that when she was coming home, that the traffic on the 78 was currently backed up on the westbound off-ramp to Mar Vista all the way down into the freeway. And I know when I get off coming from the west side, currently, I get off at Mar Vista and I cross the freeway. There's the motel there. More often than not, the traffic is backed up over the bridge. So it's a one car at a time thing all the way down, and it's just all of this traffic and vehicles converging on this unmitigatable situation. So obviously I'm a homeowner in the area, and it's like the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard, but I think this goes beyond that a little bit. I think that if you look in the surrounding area there, all you have is there's houses everywhere. There's a couple of strip malls and there's houses. There isn't an apartment complex within reasonable distance at all. So you're going to drop this new, not apartments, I understand they're condos, you're going to drop this whole complex, boom, right on that corner, and it's just kind of going to create a synergistic effect. So back to that point, why don't they sell it? Why don't they make a park out of it? I know that's a little bit bizarre, but you have the park at the Optimist Club, you have the park at over here at Bringle Terrace, and there's nothing in between. So buy the property, turn it into something nice, something that won't affect the neighborhood, something that will satisfy the parties involved. And I know that sounds a little bit outside the box, but it's just a thought. So thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. All right. Commissioner Looney, we're going to close the public hearing now. One more? Okay.
My name is Alan White. I live at 280 Mar Vista, smack in the middle of Mar Vista between 78 and Santa Fe. I've lived there 42 years. So I've seen a lot of development come through Vista. It's a beautiful community. Incidentally, I would like to compliment the developers of this project for the improvements that they have put forth over the last 4 years. It's a very attractive project. However, the Santa Fe and Mar Vista is not the place to put it. I have video with me to show you that Mar Vista is gridlocked starting at 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. It's bumper to bumper. If they put a stop signal in at Phillips and the crossing there, you will absolutely gridlock that whole area where no one will be able to get on, off, or anywhere in that area. You will have traffic, as the previous speakers pointed out, stopped from the freeway exit all the way to the stop signal, and no one will be able to move. So that's that's not a solution. The roundabout is a cosmetic Band-Aid that is not going to solve the problem. As much as I like the presentation in the project, I'm going to ask the Planning Commission not to recommend its approval because that's not the right place for it. It belongs somewhere, but not at that spot. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else? All right, so the public hearing is closed. We're going to open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners now. And first is Commissioner Looney.
Thank you. Question for staff. This light at Phillips and Mar Vista at the railroad tracks, is that a traffic signal or is this a pedestrian signal allowing cyclists using the path to cross Mar Vista?
It's actually both. It will serve traffic coming from Phillips onto Mar Vista, and it will also accommodate bicyclists crossing the intersection to the other side of Mar Vista. So it will facilitate both vehicle and pedestrian movements.
Okay.
Just to clarify, this is a signal that is going in as part of a project that's been approved by SANDAG, the Regional Transportation Agency. Whether we do anything with this project tonight or not, that signal is going to be installed sometime next year.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Mr. Winters, parking is currently allowed on South Santa Fe?
That's correct.
And they will have to do a site distance study for people exiting the project onto South Santa Fe and restrict parking so that there's site distance to be able to see down the street when traffic's coming.
I don't know that we have a condition in place for that at this time, but it's something that the city's traffic engineer can look at it upon the commission's recommendation,
Okay.
as well as the site distance from probably the shopping center to the west, just to see if there's any areas that should be red curbed by the city.
Okay. Mr. Pevney, it's outside the commission's purview, but you have a ballpark on prices of your units? Just for general public information?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, thank you. The ballpark prices are going to be in the 400,000 range.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Garrison.
I was going to ask the question about the Santa Fe parking, especially the distance between the entrance and where the first car can park. Because if you put a big truck right there, right outside there, you will not be able to see to turn left. So what can we do to make sure that there's an adequate space there to where there's no parking that would allow people to be able to view traffic coming so they can make that left turn?
That's what I was suggesting with the site distance study. There are standards for being able to see down the street from the exit, and that area would be red curbed then, so that they would have that site distance. If I remember correctly, it has to do with number of lanes, speed, and so there are engineering standards for that.
So there are engineering standards that we cannot impact.
Well, there's on the
Chairman
site,
Russell?
Make it a condition of this development that there be 30% more than standard or something.
Well,
there is on the site
I'm just
plan those
not
sight
saying
lines,
that
so-
that's the number, but
Chairman Russler?
Yes.
There is on sheet 4 of 9, there's a distance identified of 100 feet on from the edge, the curb, as you're exiting the project. So 100 feet going west.
Also on sheet 5, it's shown too.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Looney? That was your, okay, the parking issue. And Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you. Mr. Winters, could you recap for us a little bit the parking, I guess the grandfathering of the parking regulations for this project by City Council? What was the process for that?
Because the project had been submitted in January, prior to the council's discussion in April of amending the mixed-use code and changing some of the development standards. When that conversation took place with the council, Two projects in the city were grandfathered in based on their prior time of submittal, and so they were going to be held to the prior or at that time existing mixed-use zone standards.
Okay. So what I was asking about earlier that so far is only covered in this parking management plan. The parking management plan is, fellow commissioners, is too vague for me, and it doesn't have enough teeth in it to give me an assurance that these two-car garages are actually going to be holding or be able to hold two cars. And part of the language that I don't like is that the parking management plan shall allow for routine inspections of all garage spaces by the management or by the homeowners association. So right there, it's an either or. It could be an on-site manager, which I don't know if we have an on-site manager in this, or if there would be. But so I would be looking to somehow put in the conditions of approval that the HOA conditions and the CC&R conditions, to make absolutely sure that those conditions, when written, include that the two-car garages must be able to hold two cars, meaning, I don't know how this realistically gets enforced, but I want to put some language in there that forces the HOA and the CC&Rs to have that in those documents.
So we review the CC&Rs when they come in at construction, time of construction. Any project that has enclosed garages, we always require in the HOA that they verify that the garages will remain available for, parking of the number of vehicles that were intended. The only way that you can really enforce that is through a visual inspection. And so the way we've been writing a condition recently, based on the concerns we've heard from the commission, is that it requires the parking of vehicles in the garage at all times, and that the management can do a visual inspection so that if we get complaints from the neighbors that they're not parking in their garages, we can send code over, the manager can go and do a visual inspection for all the units, and you can verify that they're being used for parking. We're frankly not sure of any other way to do it, but if you have any good ideas, we're happy to look at those.
Okay, so that is part of the city's standard conditions when reviewing HOA and CC&R documents then. Okay. So now these other spaces, are these dedicated guest spaces or just general purpose spaces? The outside spaces?
Again, that's probably a question that would be regulated by the HOA, but they should be available for guest spaces.
Right, so there's guest spaces, handicap spaces, and loading spaces, and typically it's important for the HOA to be involved early on parking, pets, and people. The 3 Ps, those are the big things that hit on homeowners associations. You got dogs making noise, people making noise, and then people not parking in their garages. So effectively, as Chris answered, it's upon the HOA to just set policy, and usually you evolve a little bit. When the initial project starts out, it's a little looser, and then things start tightening up as you get more and more homeowners living there. But it's incumbent upon the homeowners association, and we'll be on the board of the homeowners association to set policy. Everyone's will be required per CC&R guidelines, to park their vehicle in their garage. No man caves, no extra bedrooms, no storage units. These are to park your vehicles in. We've lived in communities and worked in communities where we've enforced that sort of policy, and homeowners start getting fines if they're not using their garage, and it starts adding up, and it turns into a lien, and it's a big deal. So it's really incumbent upon the homeowners association to set that policy early on the parking guidelines. And
so would the HOA and CC&Rs be specifying the use of those outdoor spaces as general purpose spaces or guest spaces?
At this point, either one at this point, because you don't have full capacity. And then as the project gets at full capacity, then you start fine-tuning what can be used for what. There's going to be parking along South Santa Fe, parking along in the project itself, and then in the garages, of course, the two-car garages.
Okay. So I think the parking standards that are applied is 2.25. Is 2.25? Is that correct for each
Correct.
unit?
Correct.
And I guess the parking standard doesn't say if that quarter is intended to be a guest space or not. It's just 2.25, and then the summation. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to find all these little avenues to give me a comfort level on the parking, because everybody knows the commission had issues with that old standard, and that's why
Commissioner Carroll, just for clarification, the code standard is for 1/4 guest space per unit, in addition to the 15 spaces for the project that provides for guest parking. There's 6 additional loading spaces. I think loading spaces are more critical when in a rental apartment community where you have more frequent move-ins and move-outs, being that these are going to be ownership units. Probably not likely that the loading spaces are going to be used very often. Most people are going to load from their drive aisle and straight into the garage and get furniture in. So you probably have another 6 spaces that can be used overnight generally, in addition to the 15 provided. So 21 guest spaces functionally.
Yep. Okay. And my thought process was that if those are indeed guest spaces, visitor spaces, and if they're designated as such, because the 2 allotted spaces are in the garage, then they would just give the HOA a little bit more ammunition to help make sure that happens, rather than, I parked my 2 cars in the garage, but I'm also parking another 2 cars in those spaces. So
yeah, and we've had encounters like that on HOAs that I've served on in the past as other colleagues. And when you get to a situation like that, then if you've got 4 cars and you're going to have one that's going to have to park on a public street, because you're taking the benefit of other homeowners who might have 1 car or 2 car, so you're not going to get to have 2. But that's policy that would be set with the HOA and the CCNRs. It's kind of a flexible, as the project's building out, it gets tighter and tighter in terms of parking.
I think we should be approving conditions for ultimate occupancy and build out, and I'm not so concerned about the interim. But let me just leave it at that for now. As far as the garage issues, I think I'm okay with what staff has in place on that.
Okay. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank KB for everything that you've done and how you've listened to both the Planning Commission and to the City Council and really dialed this project down. I personally will be in support of it. I think you've listened and you've done really well. So it's going to be lovely. And because they're also going to be townhomes, so they're owner occupied, I think will help the surrounding homeowners, that you're not going to have renters who may not be there but a few months and have 6 roommates, and that would make the parking even worse. I do mirror my colleagues with the parking and the requesting of engineering with the city to do a site distance study, because I'd certainly hate to see any accidents, but I think it's a lovely project and I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion amongst the commissioners? Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. Question for staff: if staff has an opinion or a policy regarding the landscaping or no landscaping in the proposed median.
We did not require landscaping in the median because it's a cost of development. If it was a public project, yes, we would put landscaping in it, but that's our cost. They're doing a public improvement that really benefits the neighborhood, so we didn't want to add to their burden with landscaping, but it's at the commission's discretion. If you want to ask for that, that's certainly something you can require as a condition of approval.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yeah, just a clarification, Mr. Winter. On the crosswalks, those will be pavers, correct, within the unit? And not, because the wording in here wasn't clear to me whether they could be pavers or they would be pavers, where the crosswalks are throughout the complex.
It calls for enhanced paving. It could be several different things. The applicant's architect might have something specific in mind.
But not painted?
It could not be just painted.
Okay, thank you.
All right, commissioners, are we ready for a motion? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a question for Commissioner Carroll regarding the landscape in the median. Is it your opinion, and please staff weigh in, that having a landscape in the median would make it less likely for people to try to jump the median to make the left turns, or?
Yeah, I think it would. I think Mr. Connolly just noted that if this was a city project, the city policy and plan, they would put landscaping in. So I don't know why we would want to do something less than that for this median. It would be part of the road improvements like you do on any development frontage. This just happens to be in the middle of the street instead of along the frontage. So I personally would like to see the same standard applied as what the city would install if they were doing their own CIP project.
I guess now I pose it to KB Homes and the landscape. Is this a deal breaker, or if we put a condition in this to landscape the median, is that something that you're willing to do?
We'd be more than happy to do it. I think it comes down to maintenance and liability, and I think that's public right-of-way. So it'd be a little difficult for us to put something in on a public right-of-way. We could potentially pay for it, but we're not going to want the liability of maintenance. I didn't realize there's a lot of motorcycles driving through there and stuff like that, of tearing it apart. So if that's the request of the Planning Commission, we could put the planting and irrigation in. But we would not want to be maintaining it since it's public right-of-way and public improvement. But we'd be happy to be good neighbors and install it.
Mr. Winters, Mr. Connolly, if we put in something for staff to work with KB and see if that's something that can equally be shared somehow, or you work together?
If the condition is placed, landscaping to go into the median that the developer will construct, and the city can maintain it.
You got it. Okay.
Very good.
Then with that said, thank you very much. I will go forward. Adopting Resolution 2017 next, approving Addendum Number 1 to the Santa Fe Vista Apartments Final Environmental Impact Report for a 60-unit multifamily residential development and associated improvements at 1375 South Santa Fe Avenue, APN 180-181-09-00. Adopt Resolution 2017 next, approving the site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit to develop 60 two-story attached townhomes and associated improvements on a 4.58-acre site located at 1375 South Santa Fe Avenue, APN 180-181-09-00, including the recommendation for staff to work with the applicant in establishing landscape and the sprinkler system and the maintenance and however that works, and to beef up the parking management plan so that it's got some teeth so we can really control it. And anything else, commissioners, that I missed?
Commissioner Looney tells me that the site distance that's provided for on the tentative map is adequate, so I think we're covered there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. That's the motion. Thank you.
We have a motion. Commissioner Jackal.
I just wanted to second it.
Okay. Commissioner Jackal has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for the question. Cast your vote, please. And the motion's passed unanimously. I think we'll take about a 5-minute break and then move on to our second item on the agenda. So thank you very much.
Scale up there. Just
You can leave it
to
up there.
engineer.
That'd be great. Yeah.
We didn't get a chance to say hi.
Yes, no, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
And my landscape was not available, so I'll be able to.
I don't think landscaping's going to finish yet, but I
Was
think
you were supposed to do this.
definitely with the biofiltration situation, drainage.
But we'll be
Wing
able,
it.
we're familiar with
Enough.
the intent of it and
I am too, as much as I can, but I might pull you up just to add
Yeah,
on to
feel
whatever
free,
I have to
yeah.
say. But other than that, I think, yeah, the landscaping, you know what, I don't see that being an issue. Screen trees along the back, they're pine trees, so they're evergreens, they're going to stay green year round.
and we're open to, there's alternative plant talent that works.
The only thing I see is that the material, a lot of the material on the backside is 15-gallon trees. A lot of times they might bump it up against a or something like that. So we'll see what they have to say. But other than that, I think those are the big issues. So but from a civil standpoint, yeah, if we can put something together, it would be great. But
Yeah, again.
it's such a
unusual site.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's why.
So we'll be able to talk to it if he doesn't show up.
So what I'll do is I'll do a presentation. I'll let them know you're here for questions. A lot of times they'll have you come up, introduce yourselves, kind of explain the project, you know, what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. So you guys have done a great job.
So okay.
We apparently fill out the speaker.
You do, and Joan. That's a bummer.
All right, we'll come back to order. And Mr. Reisler, would you like to tell us about item number 2 on our agenda?
Thank you, Chairman Rosler. Planning Commissioners, the project before you tonight is the Vista Self-Storage Facility. The application number is P16-0401. The request includes a general plan amendment, a zone change, a special use permit, as well as a site development plan. The subject site is approximately 1.92 acres. It's a vacant lot. It's located on the west side of South Melrose Drive between Sunset Drive and Cannon Road. The surrounding land uses include single-family homes to the north in the city of Vista, vacant land to the east across South Melrose Drive in the city of Vista, single-family residential units as well as agricultural uses in unincorporated San Diego County to the east, open space as well as a retail center to the south in the city of Oceanside, and single-family homes to the west in unincorporated San Diego County. The application before you tonight includes a general plan and a zone change. The general plan amendment would change the land use designation for the subject site from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. The zone change would change the zoning of the site from C1 commercial to C2 commercial. On April 12th of 2016, the City Council had a discussion item regarding the proposed general plan amendment and zone change. And at the conclusion of that meeting, a majority of the City Council showed support for the project and recommended that the staff accept a formal application for the request before you tonight. The existing general plan land use designation of neighborhood commercial would allow for a local scale commercial type use. The proposed change would change the land use designation to general commercial, which would provide for a more broader range of retail commercial uses, including shopping centers, restaurants, as well as retail. The zoning of the site currently is C1, which allows for professional office, commercial retail, and restaurants. The proposed C2 zoning designation would allow for commercial retail shopping centers as well as self-storage facilities, subject to the approval of a special use permit. The proposed project before you tonight includes a request for a general plan amendment, a zone change, a special use permit, as well as a site development plan. The proposal includes construction and operation of a 103,991 square foot self-storage facility on approximately 1.92 acres of land. The site plan indicates landscape parking lot as well as other site improvements. Proposed hours of operation would be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, with the office hours for the facility being limited to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. The proposal before you tonight includes construction of 3 self-storage buildings totaling 103,991 square feet. Access to the site would be provided by 2 new 28-foot wide driveways along South Melrose Drive. Street improvements would include demolition of the existing median out front of the site and incorporating a new left turn lane or left turn pocket accessing the northerly driveway to the site. Those off-site improvements would include demolition of the existing median in order to accommodate the turn pocket, as well as a new raised median that would provide separation from the southerly left turn lane and the northerly traveling left turn lane directly in front of the site. In terms of parking, the Vista Development Code requires a total of 0.2 parking spaces per 1,000 square foot gross floor area, as well as 3 additional parking spaces for self-storage facilities. Based on the square footage identified on the submitted plans, the site would be required to maintain a total of 23 parking spaces. And based on the site plan before you, the applicant is proposing installation of 23 parking spaces. In terms of screen walls, the site plan indicates there'll be a new 6-foot high CMU screen wall located on the westerly and northerly edge of the site. The screen wall would provide separation between the subject property and the adjacent single-family neighborhood to the west and to the north. In regards to landscaping, the site, the landscape plan indicates the site will dedicate a total of 42% of the site to landscape improvements, which exceeds the code requirement of 15% landscaping requirement. The proposed floor plans indicate all three buildings have been configured to accommodate a total of 700 storage rooms, ranging in size from 25 square feet to 350 square feet. Each building will also maintain restroom facilities on the first floor, and Building A has been designed to accommodate an 800 square foot administrative office on the first floor. The proposed buildings would be 3 stories with a maximum height of 42 feet to the top of the tower element of each building, which would exceed the 35-foot limit prescribed by code. Building B as well as Building C would also have a basement facility. Building elevations for the site have been designed to maintain earth tone stucco exteriors, decorative tower elements, trellis systems, as well as spandrel glass systems. Once completed, the buildings will exhibit a 2-story appearance, along South Melrose Drive. Here's a perspective of the site from South Melrose Drive, traveling northbound, and it better illustrates the 2-story element that I was describing in the previous slide. The proposed general plan land use designation would allow for commercial and retail uses on the subject site, as well as self-storage facilities. In regards to the C2 zone development standards, the proposed project exceeds the maximum building height of 35 feet. Although the tower elements do reach a height of 42 feet, the buildings have been designed to resemble a 2-story elevation in order to meet the intent of the development code. The increase in building height is permitted subject to the approval of a special use permit. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project and circulated from October 18th to November 6th. The mitigated negative declaration includes mitigation measures identified for cultural resources, biological resources, geology, as well as soils, noise, and traffic. 2 comment letters were received, and they're included within your packet. Staff has provided a response to both of those letters, and again, that response is in your packet as well. With that being said, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt resolutions approving a mitigated negative, recommending City Council approval of a mitigated negative declaration, general plan amendment, special use permit, site development plan, as well as a zone change to develop a 103,991 square foot self-storage facility on the subject site. That concludes staff's report. I'm here to answer any questions. The development team is here as well to answer any questions the Planning Commission might have tonight. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Okay, let's move on to the applicant then. Sorry, they were too quick. Commissioner Looney.
On the application, there's a landscape plan that shows the property landscaped. On the architectural renderings, that shows a median in Melrose that has been landscaped. So I was just curious. Do this. On this rendering, the median is shown with full landscaping, but it's not shown as full landscaping on the application. Is that a part of the requirement of the, or I'm just trying to understand, is it landscaped or is it not going to be landscaped? Okay.
Currently it is landscaped. The improvement would be removing a portion of that median in order to accommodate the left turn pocket into the site. There's no additional landscaping proposed within the median. It'd actually be removal of some of the landscaping in order to accommodate that pocket.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Commissioner Garrison?
Do we have a perspective from the houses that are west of this what they're going to see, because from the street you may see 2 stories, but from those houses you're going to see 3 stories. The massing of this from those housing unit west of that unit are going to be.
So the perspective before you now is a perspective from those residents to the west. The perspective shows the variation in roof height, the spandrel glass elements along the back, as well as the tower elements. It was the intention of the applicant to dress up the back of that building in order to create architectural integrity between all 4 elevations of the building.
So that's basically what the people west of that are going to see. 3
That's
stories.
correct. However, this perspective also indicates that some of the landscaping was removed so you can identify the architectural features, but there'll actually be more landscaping along that edge, and there's actually a 6-foot-high screen wall that will be on that edge as well.
What is the distance between this building or these buildings and the houses that are west of there? Because those houses west of there are literally down at the bottom, right, almost bordering this property.
Yeah, let me see if I have a aerial. Maybe we'll go back to the beginning of. Here's an aerial right here. So the most southerly property, the closest building, I think is approximately 15, 20 feet from the property line. The building proposed, the building C would be proposed to be set back 15 feet. So I think that would be approximately 40 feet, something like that. That's the closest structure to this project. The remainder of them are well beyond 50 feet separation between the front of the home and the west property line of this site.
So the people that are there are expecting, when they built their houses, to have 35 feet. Now they're going to be looking at 40 feet if we approve a change. Is that not correct?
Can you rephrase that question?
Well, the people that own those houses that are west of this property, when they bought that property, it was zoned the way it's zoned now. And that only allows 35 feet building height. If we approve this, now they're going to be looking at 42.
And I had a feeling that we'd have this question brought up tonight. So what I did was I prepared a slide, and I'll put it up here, that identifies the parapet height of each building and the elevation of each property adjacent to the site. And let me see if I can't get to it. Here it is right here. So as you can see, the property to the north, the residential property to the north, I picked a grade at 418. The top of the parapet of that building A would be at 424. So that's about 6 foot higher than the elevation of the adjacent property. Building B, you're looking at a parapet height of 408. And the adjacent grade of the adjacent properties are at 400, 379. So you're looking at a 20-foot height difference between the grade of the adjacent single-family lot and the top of the building, of proposed building that the applicant's proposing. And I think the biggest height difference would be building C, which I'm showing 2 points at 361 and 350, and the building parapet height would be at 400 and 390. That would be a total difference, I think, of 41 feet and 39 feet. So those are the two extremes that we're looking at right now.
Still higher than exists now in the code.
The code would allow for a maximum 35 feet, so you're looking at a difference of about 4 feet and 6 feet.
Thank you.
Keep in mind, I guess, however, the tower elements do encroach higher. This is a parapet height, so the towers would actually go a little bit higher than what's identified on this illustration.
So 40 feet away, they're going to be looking up at 40 feet.
That's correct. And within that 40 foot, you would have a 6 foot high block wall, you would have a row of screen trees, and then the building, correct.
but looking up at 40 feet.
That's correct, in this condition.
All right. If there are no further questions, we'll ask the applicant to come up.
Good evening. My name is Barry Adnams. I'm the project architect with Hard Hat. My office address is 6885 Alton Parkway in Irvine. And we are here to answer any questions that you would have. And I'd just like to take this opportunity, after having worked with staff for nearly 15 months now, to thank them for their thoroughness, diligence, their attitude, their suggestions, and appreciate the recommendation for approval. And I know that there will be some very legitimate questions coming from this commission, and we look forward to answering those, and a nice project here. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? I have a couple. Your hours of operation are 7 to 7 every day, and the office is open 9 to 6. How's that work?
With that question, I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce the developer operator that can answer that question more accurately than I can. So if
Hello, my name is Mike Rolfus. I am with Lighthouse Self-Storage, and I'd like to also, just before I answer that, to thank staff for all of their help that they spent with us working together and put this project together. So the way that works is that our office hours run basically from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. However, for our customers, they have controlled gate access to be able to access the building for their units that run from 7 to 7. So it gives them the flexibility to be able to come in before we actually open up the retail component of the facility.
Okay, so there's not going to be 24-hour access to the buildings, and you're not going to have a manager's caretaker unit with somebody living there?
No, there's not. We don't have a manager. We have several other facilities in the area, and we staff full-time, but it's only during those office hours, but nobody will be living on the premise.
Okay, all right. On Building B, on the 3rd floor, if you can look at those, I don't know if we have a slide of those, Mike, but...
The elevations?
No, the floor plans. I'm sorry, no, the floor plans.
No, but I can give them...
Oh, thank you.
Floor plans, you know where they are?
Yeah.
Building B floor plan.
Thank you.
On the east side of the building, are those storage units there that are very narrow?
Yes, there are a variety of storage sizes and spaces.
Okay. That doesn't appear to be more than 5 feet deep,
Yeah, it is very interesting how we make every square footage count.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, that was just a question. All right, any questions from the Planning Commission? Commissioner Jackal?
This may seem a really bizarre question, but in another community where I lived, it was a serious problem. If you're not having an on-site person living there, what if people live in the units that they rent?
Well, we have lease agreements with all of the tenants, and obviously one of the things in the lease agreements is they're not allowed to occupy the facility. We also, our managers get to know all of our customer base, not intimately, but they know who's supposed to be on the property and who's not. We also have security cameras and other electronic devices that control that. So any movement that would occur in the building, it would set off an alarm that goes back to our central control, and we would know that there's activity. So.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Commissioner Garrison.
So where are these security cameras going to be viewed?
So we run 2 different backup sets of cameras. Typically, we use 16 cameras and a DVR, which is located on site. And then additionally, we have a camera which is a live streaming camera, which goes back to our corporate headquarters and our call center.
Where is that?
That's in Irvine. And so in addition to that, we have a security company that monitors the alarms and the cameras for activity if an alarm is set off.
A local security company?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 2 is, if you're coming south on Melrose and you want to turn into this property, how many cars can be turned in at a time, or how much space do you have that's a turn lane but that will not block traffic on Melrose going south? In other words, you have to turn right. Traffic coming over that hill is coming 50 miles an hour. So how many cars can get in a turn lane without blocking traffic?
Do you want to answer this? Yeah.
Currently, there is no anticipation of a dedicated deceleration lane or a right turn pocket to make the right turn into the drive approach. So I'm not really sure what the question is. If there are multiple cars trying to turn right into the facility,
if you're coming south on Melrose, you've passed the light at the top of the hill, which is Sunset.
Yes.
And you're coming down that hill at 50 miles an hour, and 2 or 3 cars are turning right. You're creating a major safety hazard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, 2 or 3 cars turning right into the complex?
Yes.
I see what you're saying. Engineering has not identified that as a challenge for us. Historically, self-storage is one of the lowest, if not the lowest, traffic generator. I can't say that I've ever, and maybe the operator or developer can say, the likelihood of 2 or 3 cars coming in at the same time is very, very remote. But I know that the engineering department and traffic looked at this project to that standpoint. So.
Just to add on to what the applicant had to say, in the mitigated negative declaration, it identifies the total trips of this use being a total of 208 a day, the peak hour being 12 in the AM peak hour and 19 in the PM hour. And based on those demands, the engineering division traffic engineer didn't request a decel lane going into the site.
I find that a major problem. I just can't believe that that's not going to be a major safety hazard coming south on Melrose.
I guess the thing to keep in mind is there's a driveway throat going into the site that's a minimum of 20 feet before you get to the first parking stall.
Yeah.
So there's actually at least one car length once you get off of Melrose before you even get to a stall to park.
But you have to stop on Melrose in order to turn, basically, or slow down to 5 miles an hour.
In
other words, you have traffic coming at 50 miles an hour and a car stopping or slowing down to 5 in order to turn into this complex.
There is a bike lane there.
There's actually, so just so the Planning Commission knows, the South Melrose is considered a 6-lane primary arterial, which includes 3 12-foot wide lanes as well as an 8-foot shoulder along the edge. So ultimately, I guess a driver could go into that shoulder when going into the site, which would provide somewhat of a separation from the travel lane. However, again, based on the low traffic counts associated with this use, there was no determination made by the traffic engineer to do any type of decel lane.
And that's a bike lane?
That's correct.
Okay. I just find that a major problem for safety on traffic going south on Melrose. I just can't see how that's not a major problem.
Okay. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any other storage facilities within Vista currently? Do you have any other storage facilities currently within Vista?
No, but the closest one is in probably Oceanside.
Okay.
I have family that lives right around the corner from this site. That's why we selected this site. So, and so we're very familiar with Vista. We've been in there. We have 3 other ones in Escondido and around the larger community.
Great. So you're not new to North County by any means?
Oh no, and we have 17 facilities in Southern Orange County. And, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you
Okay,
so very
thanks.
much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. No other comments from the commissioners. We'll open it up to the public. And Mark Nogel, is that it?
Noyce, I built the house at the end of the La Jolla Canyon. I built, and the third one up is my house also. So I'm familiar with 2 of them. Melrose is 2-lane going south. And then when it hits the intersection there at the red light, it becomes 3 lanes, and that the 3rd lane is not used. It's almost, you can turn right off of Mar Vista not Mar Vista, but in front of the project is 3 lanes of full travel, and the other side of the red light is only 2. So it's very good for turning. What I wanted to address is the section CC. It's a brow ditch against my property. It's making it very difficult to put the sewer in at a later date. They're leaving a sloped line, and I already talked to somebody about it, and it's just makes a hole right off of my property onto theirs, and it's no reason for it. It's section CC. The parapet wall from my side seems to be, if that could be reduced as much as possible, because we'll be looking up at it. It'll be looking like the Roman Colosseum or something like that, from my perspective. It would be good if that parapet wall could be lowered as much as possible. And that's all.
So you're concerned about section CC on the improvement?
I believe they could eliminate the first retaining wall. It's supposed to be just a self-stacking wall, but the brow ditch, I'm not saying to eliminate that. I would like to just put that up higher, because the flow of the road, it does slope a lot. It would take care of all the water, no problem at all. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Commissioner Kramer? Oh, all right. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the commission on this project? I have no other speaker slips. All right, we will close the public hearing and open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners. Maybe we could ask the applicant and the architect to address section CC if you have that handy.
Yeah, as we're turning to that page, I think I understand what the neighbor is asking for is that our plan was developed assuming there would be no modification to the adjacent property owners. And what I think I'm hearing the property owner is potentially raising his grade up to minimize the amount of retaining situation and the brow ditch. And I know that the developer would appreciate that, because that'll minimize the impact. And
Okay.
it sounds like it is.
So if we asked you to work with the neighbor to address his concern, you guys can handle that?
Yeah, and I believe they've had some conversation just outside that.
All right. Very good.
I just spoke with the neighbor tonight again, but we would actually prefer to work with the neighbor in his solution because we're trying to accommodate a grade elevation that would be much better if we can blend the grades between the two properties, and I think that's his desire also.
I would agree. Okay. All right, commissioners. Discussion? Commissioner Jackal.
I would just like to say, when I first heard about this, when you first came to the city council, I raised many eyebrows, but I compliment you on making a three-story structures look two-story. I think that was a very good idea. And I really appreciate all the landscaping that you've put in.
Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. It's not clear to me on the southerly driveway where the gate would be, if there is a gate for that driveway.
If we were to go to the site plan.
Are they both gated with keypad access?
Yes, they are. So
Okay. It's at the back of the building.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was
12?
different symbol than the other one. That's why I missed it. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Garrison?
I just want to say I'm opposed to this based on two things. The mass of the building compared to the neighbors, and this is a zone change. I think they have every right to their privacy from zone changes that impact that. And the second thing is the traffic. I think it's going to be a major traffic headache turning in there, and it's going to create some potential major safety issues.
Okay. Anyone else have comments? For me personally, this is a very difficult piece of property. It's narrow. It's left over from the Melrose acquisition, I believe. It slopes. I think the solution that they've come up with is one that will have minimal impacts on the neighborhood. 12 trips during afternoon or morning rush hour is about as less impact as you can generate. I think they've done a good job of architecture. They have made storage buildings look somewhat acceptable. I think the faux windows help. The view from off-site, it's a problem because you're going from rural property it's in the county, isn't it?
That's correct, unincorporated San Diego County.
Going from rural property in the county to a 6-lane prime arterial. So personally, I don't have a problem with the architecture or the building height. The encroachment of 5 feet for the towers with the use permit, but if it's what they need to make the project work, then I guess I'm okay with it. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have a storage unit. However, my 2 points of reference are Aries Place on Sycamore and Melrose, and the storage facility that's near Soapy Joe's, so Vista Way and Emerald. And in neither case, and the one on Sycamore and Melrose, that's RVs and boats and much larger things. And I've never seen traffic stacking up. I've never seen that problem. And the same thing with Vista Way and Emerald. That's only one lane each way, and the traffic does not back up. I've seen, like 2 cars in their neck. So I am in favor of this, and I love the excessive landscaping. It just, much like the other 2 that we have in the facility, done a very nice job in camouflaging people's stuff. So I am going to move forward and make a motion adopting Resolution 2017 Next, recommending City Council approval of a mitigated negative declaration and adopt a mitigation monitoring and reporting program to construct a 103,991 square foot self-storage facility to include landscape, parking lot, and associated site improvements on a 1.92 acre site located on the west side of South Melrose Drive, north of Cannon Road, APN 169-180-30-00. Second, adopt Resolution 2017 Next, recommending City Council approval of a general plan amendment and special use permit, inclusive of a site development plan, to develop a 103,991 square foot self-storage facility to include landscaping, parking lot, associated site improvements on 1.92 site located on the west side of South Melrose, north of Cannon Road, same APN. And third, adopt Resolution 2017 Next, recommending City Council approval of a zoning change to change the zoning from Commercial C1 to Commercial C2 on 1.92 acres located on the west side of South Melrose Drive, north of Cannon Road, same APN.
Very good. We have a motion. Commissioner Carroll?
Well, congratulations on getting that motion out. So it reminds me of a conversation I had with Mr. Stone not too long ago, and it was regarding making motions, and if the city attorney's office had a preference on quoting it verbatim or foreshortening it by summarizing it as, planning case P16-041, items 1, 2, and 3 as written. And he didn't really care either way, but, well, he did have a preference, and just that if you just say as written, then boom, it's done. It's exactly as written. In case you happen to misstep or misspeak on something, and then of course you can add in any other changes or additions beyond that, but just in case that saves anybody some heartache or headache later. I have a quick
second.
I understand.
Are you going to second?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
But I have a question first.
Okay. Go for it.
And it's regarding the driveway entrances, and they're noted as per City Vista standard SR5-5A, and I don't know what that standard looks like off the top of my head, but I'm wondering if that is a commercial driveway standard, if it includes a radius, or if it is more of a residential type of apron.
The radius.
Okay, very good. That's what I wanted to confirm, because I think that radius is needed here, and just want to make sure it wasn't just a wing type of apron situation. And with that, I will second the motion.
Very good. It's been moved and seconded to approve. Any further questions or discussions? Okay, call for the question. Commissioner Garrison.
I just need a clarification of what Commissioner Carroll just said about the turning radius there. So that was my concern, was traffic coming down 50 miles an hour having to stop or slow down to turn in there. So what kind of radius is there? I missed that.
Yeah, I don't know the standard. It scales about an 8 or 10 foot radius, but I don't know what it is.
Shouldn't it be like 3? What we're referring to is just the driveway type. So there's the apron driveway that you see in residential areas. It's like a dustpan driveway. This has a radius built into the turn so that there's a curb turn that comes in. You see it at some of the newer commercial driveways where there's a radius that kind of guides the car into the driveway rather than that dustpan where you're going to jump the curb if you take the turn early. It's just, it's better for high-speed traffic in commercial areas because it accommodates turning movements.
That clarifies a lot for me. And there's a sidewalk there.
Correct.
And a lot of kids walking between the schools there. So, okay, that helps. Thanks.
All right. We'll call for the question then. Please cast your vote. And the motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Garrison voting no. And I think the record will show that you were concerned about the driveway turn and the speeds on Melrose. Okay? All right. Very good. Next item on our agenda is a report from the Community Development Director on city activities, I guess.
So my report tonight is pretty short. Our next meeting will be on January 16th. We obviously won't have a meeting the week of Christmas, so enjoy your holiday. I do want to report that we had some discussion about an early design review item on Terracina Way that raised a lot of concerns about density in the residential neighborhoods in the downtown specific plan. And so the city managers asked me to schedule that for discussion with the Planning Commission and the council. So I'll be coming back in February with a discussion item to get some feedback from the commission on what we might consider in the way of changes to address that issue, and we'll go to the council and get additional direction, and then we'll come back with some formal changes probably in the springtime. And that's really a result of Commissioner Jackel's letter to the council, so thank you for doing that. That's all I have for tonight, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Commissioner Jackel?
Thank you, Mr. Conley. I just wanted to confirm that that discussion will include possibly asking the council to consider changing the parking regulations for...
So the floor is open, and it will be a discussion that focuses on the residential neighborhoods, but if the commission wants to make recommendations for the entire plan or for parking changes, this is an opportunity to voice those concerns to the council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Connolly, anything new with our restaurants? I mean, still waiting for the doghouse that was supposed to be here in July.
So the doghouse has been issued permits. I know they do plan to start construction. If they haven't already, they're telling us it's going to be sometime early next year. When Pigs Fly is supposed to open at the end of the month. The Old La Paloma Wildwood opened, I think, this weekend, so it's open. The sushi place is supposed to be in the spring next year on Main Street as well. Raising Cane's is going to demo the barbecue place supposedly in January, maybe February, and start their construction. They're hoping to be open in May.
And Swami's?
Swami's has not gotten their building permit yet. They're still in the plan review cycle, but they have submitted, so we're working through that TI process with them.
Okay.
Can't think of any
Thank
others.
you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carroll?
Mr. Conley, do you have a rough schedule for the park on Civic Center north of 78?
We just completed a contract for a landscape architect to lead that project, so we've got someone on board. We expect to have some community meetings in the early part of the year, probably January, February, to try to get some input from the neighbors. Then a design will be going to the Parks Commission and ultimately to the council, but it's going to start off with some community meetings, so I'll make sure I send those to the commissioners.
Oh, that's a great
if you want
idea.
to
I think
participate.
getting that adjacent community involved would be great.
Definitely.
Good. Commissioner Garrison?
What is the estimated completion of the rail trail over to Mar Vista?
The rail trail to Mar Vista is under construction. I don't want to speculate on Sandag's construction schedule because they usually don't stick to it, but it's supposed to be done in the summertime. I'm going to guess it's probably going to stretch maybe into the fall. The next phase would be from Mar Vista to Civic Center, which they apparently just were awarded some funding for, but I think the construction for that probably won't start until late next year or maybe early 2019. The total build-out, according to Sandag, there are still some pieces that are unfunded in Vista, like the stretch from Civic Center to downtown, but they're saying by 2020 they expect to have the whole thing done.
Super. Thank you.
Okay. And I noticed in the first staff report that Chris signed his report as associate planner. Did he get promoted?
Yes, he did, actually, about a year and a half ago, so
Oh, my
I should
goodness.
have announced that, so we never did.
Last
but,
time I saw it.
Yeah,
so-
Chris has been an associate for quite a while now.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, congratulations. So, all right.
Chairman Rossler, can I
yes.
just, one note, the Rancho Lomos Verdes project, which is an annexation at the end of East Vista Way and towards Gopher Canyon, there will be a EIR scoping meeting on December the 14th from 6 to 8 in the community room. So it'll be an open house format. So just wanted to mention that. And
14th?
notices have been sent out, correct?
This is the 300-acre Kawano property, the strawberry fields north of the city.
153 lots.
All right. Thank you. Very good. If there's nothing else, we stand adjourned until January 16th, 2018.